What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm gonna walk you through my trades from the morning. We ended up having a couple of big moves, and I took the approach today of sitting on the sidelines for most of the morning. I only traded 2 stocks. There were a number of stocks I could have traded, and I said, you know what? I just don't love them. And kind of my attitude this year has been, if I don't love it, then I'm not going in. But if I love it, I'm going all in. So I used every penny of my buying power today on the stock that I made the most on. When that stock popped up, the first few trades were lighter volume, but then once it curled for that second move higher, which you'll see when we get into the charts, I used all my buying power. So as of today, right now, my account is up, right? Well, let's see. Let's go ahead. Well, let's jump onto the screen share and then we can see exactly where I'm at. So coming into today, I was sitting at something like $270,000 on the year, something like that, with about $370,000 in my account because I funded my account this year, or started the year with about $100,000 in the account. So with $270,000 in profit plus 100, I've got about $370,000 in the account. So, you know, that's a decent amount of money. And then when you're looking at trading a stock like HIND, which I traded up here, right in this area with my biggest position, it was right here for the breakthrough 7. So all of a sudden, 7 times 45,000 shares, right? 50,000 shares, 725. I mean, I was all in. I couldn't add any more. I tried, and I was getting rejected for not having enough buying power. And I really thought this thing was going to take off. And I'm disappointed by how much it pulled back. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but here's my P&L for today. Up $59,752.51, traded 2 stocks. The first one was BCTX. The second one was HIND. Both of these stocks had breaking news, which was the catalyst that gave it the initial pop, and then I was jumping in on micro pullbacks. But when I first sat down this morning, fortunately it wasn't snowing, and fortunately I found my glasses. So the morning was off to a pretty good start already. We did have a couple of hiccups, and I'm looking at June laying on the couch. She really, well, I don't want to embarrass her, but boy, she had a tough morning. Anyway, so let's see. So when I first sat down, I noticed PHGE. This stock had popped up in after hours yesterday, and I was like, okay, you know, an after hours move here, a nice move for sure, from like $4 all the way up to 10. But by pre-market, it was pulling back, right? So I was like, no, that's not going to work. So that was a no. If we go back to the beginning of the scan here, I'm going to scroll all the way back to this morning. So first alert, 4 a.m., NUWE. This stock has popped up a few times, you may recall. So popped up again right there. It's a big move. But again, you know, this one, to me, so it first popped up here pretty early in the day. It right now has 102 million shares of volume. I looked at it, and right in this area as it was squeezing higher, it just felt to me like it was too thickly traded. I just wasn't really sure about it. So I left that one alone. It did end up going up to 650, as you can see, but I didn't get any trades on that. It ends up peaking right around 7 a.m., and then it rolls over. Now, I kind of thought this might work at 7 a.m., and the reason I thought it might work was because yesterday we had, what was the ticker? I can't remember now, but we had a ticker right at 7 a.m. that squeezed, but this one, it couldn't do it. So that was a no. But as I was looking at the scanner, I saw PHGE and saw that had pulled back too much. And I saw GNTA, and I saw this one had popped up and then pulled back a bit. I'll switch to the 5-minute chart so you can see a little bit better. So this one had popped up and then pulled back. So I was like, no, that's not great. Then I saw NUWE back on the scans, right? So that was 4 in the morning, 4:20. Then we had NAMM. This one, lighter volume, declining relative volume on the daily. So I was like, no, I think I'm going to leave that one alone. Then we had BNRG. No news. No news. That's the first thing I check. I don't see the flame. I don't see any news. It's Israeli. it went from 4 to 650 and then back down to 3. And I was like, all right, I don't like seeing a round trip like that, but it was no news. So as long as I focus on trading something with news, should be fine. LRHC, same thing. Pops from 350 to 5 all the way back down. But again, no news. So I thought, all right, definitely steer clear of stocks with no news. GNTA, that one rolled over. BZAI, this is now 5 in the morning, nothing there. IPW, again, pops up, reverses. Again, no news. So I'm feeling pretty confident. Just stay away from stuff that doesn't have news. If it has news, then, that's good. So CYN pops up. And CYN has this headline that their orders tripled year over year. And, I'm kind of cynical. I'm like, does that mean you sold 1 last year? You sold 3 this year? What is triple? I mean, triple, what does that even mean? So I'm a little bit unsure about it. But, nonetheless, I'm like, all right, well, that is a cool looking picture of a robot. I got to give it to him. And so, I'm like, maybe I could. But I do remember trading this one before. And because I've traded it before, I had very low expectations for it. The float's 7.9 million shares, and it sort of pops up, pulls back, pushes a little higher. And this area, it looks cleaner than it was. On a 1-minute chart, it was really a grinder. And by the way, I wasn't up at 4 in the morning, but when I sit down, I look back at the scanner alerts from earlier just to see kind of what I missed and, what's looking good. So a couple higher volume red candles. This was a grinding area, and then it finally pulled away, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll trade it here. But then there was big sellers on the ask, and I was like, nope, I'm not getting in. So I held my discipline, no trades. So now it's coming up to 8 a.m. I have not yet taken a single trade today. So I'm like, all right, well, no, that's not true. What time was this? This, when it first popped up, it was 7:15, 7:20. I didn't trade any of this. This was a little bit later. But then we had, let's see, JZXN that popped up. And I'm like, nah, Chinese stock, probably going to leave that alone. I saw that it had news, but I was like, it's tied in with blockchain. I don't know. I think I'm just going to leave that one alone. So feeling good about leaving that one alone. And then we had BCTX hit the scanner right here. And when BCTX hits the scanner, I see it's got the news flame. Breast cancer patients, phase 2 metastatic breast cancer, Canadian company. I like Canadians. I like denim. Who doesn't like denim? So BCTX is squeezing higher. And I'm like, all right, here we go. It's game time. So I'm on the 10-second chart. I pull it up and look at this thing. This is crazy. So right here, it goes from $4.90 up to $6 and then comes all the way back down to $4.70 and flushes back to $3.90. And I was kind of taken aback. I was shocked. I was like, this has breaking news. Why is it not holding up better? It meets the 5 pillars of stock selection. We've got news. The float's pretty low. The daily chart is fine. It's not a recent reverse split, but that's not a problem. The 200 moving average is not in the way. And I really don't know. I'm not sure. So I jumped in this for the break of 5. I got in for the break of 5. It squeezes up to 550. I added for the break of 550. I added at 546, 539, and 541. It hits a high there of 6. I don't take anything off the table. I'm like, okay, here we go. It's game time. And then I sold on the way back down here, and I'm selling as it dropped. So I made money on it, but I was disappointed that it didn't hold up well. So that was the first trade on BCTX, and I was like, yikes, that's kind of surprising. I don't really know what to think about that. Weird. All right, well, it was lighter volume, so I don't know, maybe it wasn't obvious enough. And traders were focusing on CYN. Maybe CYN was more of, dispersed attention, kind of distraction. And this was just, because there was something more interesting for people, they didn't go for CYN or for BCTX. So anyway, so I have that trade. I'm green on it, but I was like, oh, that was close. ASPB. I mentioned this one in my recap on Sunday because it's a recent reverse split. But then I thought, well, I don't know if this is really going to work. Country code PR. I figured that's Puerto Rico. I'll just double check country code PR. Yeah, so Puerto Rico. So, I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know if Thinkorswim's going to allow it, right? Thinkorswim has been restricting stocks. You can call them and they'll lift the restriction, but not everyone's done that yet. So I wasn't sure. Pops up, reverses. I don't take a trade on it. So I'm like, all right, well, but I'm not surprised totally. It was kind of cheaper. And so I left that one alone. And then I kind of thought I was done for the day. And HIND pops up a little bit past 8 a.m. right here. And so this stock ends up giving us two really good moves. So the first move was right here. It squeezes up to, well, let's go on the 10-second chart. So on this one on the 10-second chart, we'll zoom in right here. So first it popped up right here, and then it dips down, and as it squeezes back up right here, right even before it hit my high of day momentum scanner, it was on my top gainers scanner. And Nick, who's a member in the chat room, he's got his $250,000 badge. He said, check out HIND. It looks good. And I pulled it up and I noticed this setup right here, this little pullback. And I was like, you're right. It does look good. And so I jumped in it right down here and I was looking for the break through $5. So this was my first entry. It goes from 5 up to 550. I'm like, sweet. I add to the position. It goes up to 6. I add to the position. It goes up to 650. It goes up to 7, goes up to 740. I take profit off the table. It pulls back a little bit. It drops all the way down to 5. I do a dip down here off of 5, $0.50, whole dollar. It bounces back up a little bit. I take profit. So I basically get in and I get right out. Then I get back in for the break of VWAP here. Doesn't really pull away. I'm like, that's not great. Then it comes back up here. I get back in for the break of VWAP. Doesn't pull away again. I'm like, oh man, this thing, I don't know. Dips down, it's below VWAP. Then it comes back up here and I get back in right here. And now I'm adding and I'm looking for the squeeze through high of day. And this is where I took my biggest position of the day, which was right through this area. And this is where I was looking for that to squeeze and pull away. So I was adding right here at 7. Now, the thing that I was aware of was the fact that we had this double top, right? So we had this previous high right here, which was 743. Then we had, kind of right here. And someone mentioned that Thinkorswim, which I don't have up, but someone said charts on Thinkorswim was showing the 200 moving average at something like, I don't know, it was like 750 or something like that. I'd have to load Thinkorswim. But in any case, so I don't know if that's the case or if anyone can confirm that. But that is kind of interesting if that was the case, because although that moving average is incorrect, it would create the perception for people that this is resistance, even though it's not the 200. So that's a little tricky. So then it dips down. You get a first candle to make a new high and it rejects, and then it sells off. It goes lower. I did a dip trade off of 5. That didn't work out very well. Another attempt there didn't work out. And these were reversal trades, and then I just gave up. And now I'm appalled at how much it's pulled back. Now it's back at 288. Again, in spite of the fact that this stock also had news. So I pulled up the filings on it because I was trying to see, do they have a shelf registration? And they do. They have a shelf registration right here. And so, that makes me wonder, all right, is this the type of company that took the opportunity today to sell shares on the open market? And I don't know, but I speculate. I wonder where all of that supply came from, right? It's an imbalance between supply and demand. We had breaking news. We had an influx of demand. The stock price goes up. And then suddenly it got very heavy up around 7 and then just starts to unwind. So there was all of this selling. Now, you look at their balance sheet. This was as of September 30th, 2025. And while I'm actively trading the technicals, I don't have time to pull up the balance sheet. But I can look at it after the fact, and then it sometimes adds context or helps me understand why something worked as well as it did, or maybe didn't work as well as I would have liked. So they show $5 million of cash on their balance sheet as of the end of September. And initially I'm like, that seems pretty solid. And then you see right here, the revenue is very light. Cost of goods, all right. So their gross profit right here is not substantial. And then their operating expenses here, transactional financing advisory fees, this one is $7.7 million. So they lost 9 million in the 9 months that ended on September 30th, right? So then you're like, geez Louise, that's a lot to lose. Now that 7.7 million was not there in the previous year, but in the previous year they still lost just from operating expenses. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what to think. Part of me is bullish for tomorrow because Wednesdays have been hot this month. If I pull up my TraderView charts here, let's see, TraderView. So last Wednesday was my best day of the week for last week. And the week before that, Wednesday was also the best day of the week. So Wednesdays have been good. I don't know. Wednesday was $86,000 there, $43,000 there. Today was a good day. We had momentum, but then things didn't hold up super well. So I don't know about tomorrow. Part of me, I pay attention to these patterns and it makes me think tomorrow could be a good day, but maybe shorts are going to be more confident because these have not held up super well. Again, a number of the stocks that had news today didn't end up holding up super well. GITS, this one popped up after the open, kind of unwinds. XHLD, 77 million shares. And we've got a lot of volume. There's no question about that. There's a lot of traders in the market, but what is obvious? What will be obvious tomorrow? I don't know, but I've got a cushion from yesterday and today. So that gives me the ability to take some risk if we have something that looks good. And given the last few Wednesdays have been pretty strong, I'll be optimistic, but at the end of the day, I'm going to trade the technicals. And if the chart is looking good and the price is moving higher, I'm bullish. If it's not, I'll just sit on the sidelines. And I'm still kind of doing all or nothing. I'm either like all in or I'm on the sidelines. Now with BCTX, I broke the ice on the first trades. I did the same thing with HIND, breaking the ice on the first trades. But once I have a cushion and I'm doing well, then I'm getting aggressive. But I'm not even trying to break the ice on something and build a cushion if I don't think it has the potential to really do something kind of impressive. At least in this market, it just feels like, I don't know, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel on stocks like CYN and I churn commissions. I don't make that much. I get frustrated and I could easily take a good size loss and I don't want that to happen. So my focus right now is still catalyst driven. Wait for a stock to hit the scanners, try to understand what the catalyst is, and then jump on the first pullback. That worked really well on HIND. It worked really well on BCTX, even though they didn't hold up, by the end of the day or even halfway through the day as it is right now. That's okay. There was still some opportunity there. There was a window, and more often than not, focusing on trading breaking news works well. So I'm just going to stay focused on that for tomorrow morning. And again, for those of you guys tuning in on YouTube, make sure you guys check out our 2-week trial, 2 weeks for $20. You can watch over my shoulder as I'm trading. And when you do that, you'll be able to see, as you can see right here in this window, where's my mouse? You're able to see my orders, my positions, how much I'm up, how much I'm down. You can see everything. So you're welcome to come check this out. And for members, I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Reminder, as always, trading is risky and my results aren't typical, so make sure you manage your risk and always practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line.